This part was way too tight. Hi and welcome back to the channel. I'm Steven from X Kurogane Studio today with a scale figure review. And yes, it is Nikke stuff again. But this figure is a bit different from every of my recent Nikke figure review, the other four, because this is a re-release and a very unusual re-release. This figure is also almost a regret for me in a way, but you can still find her at normal official MSRP prices over in China's Taobao, where you may need a proxy service to get it, and this is where this channel's sponsor for today's figure review comes in, Superbuy. Superbuy is a proxy service for you to purchase anime figures directly from China's Taobao or any other Chinese website for the matter. You can go ahead to Taobao, search for the anime figures that you want, copy and paste the link over into their search engine, and you will be able to buy any anime figures from a Chinese seller really cheaply, sometimes below market price compared to a Japanese website. And you can always head to the Superbuy subreddit r/Superbuy to ask any questions, where they actually have a representative who will answer all of your questions. This service, this website has been around for 13, 14 years, I think. So they're extremely reliable and I use their service myself. If you would like to sign up for a Superbuy account, please to make use of my links down in the description below to sign up and start shopping from China's largest shopping website, where you can find a lot of anime figures at really good prices. Thanks a lot to Superbuy for sponsoring today's scale figure review. And getting back to what I have in front of me, this is Good Smile Arts Shanghai 1/7 scale Scarlet from Goddess of Victory Nikke. Her official price is around 22,727 Japanese yen before taxes and shipping. The first release was back in June 2025, exactly a year ago. And I did not pre-order this figure back then because I was uncertain about my budget, wasn't sure if I could afford it. And by the time she came out in June, I decided that I could afford her. But to my horror, she was sold out everywhere. Ami, Hobby Search, Hobby Link Japan, no matter where I see, she was sold out, and within a week or two, you could see resellers over in Amazon Japan and some places pricing her at 35 or 40,000 yen. I was pretty mad at myself for not pre-ordering it. It was a regret that I had never felt in many years, right? I rarely predict figures wrongly on whether they would become rare or common after release. I was wrong about her. But incredibly, within a month of her release in June, by July, Good Smile Company announced a re-release, which was when I smashed the pre-order button. I wouldn't let her go again. And she came out the second time on the 8th of January 2026 earlier this year, a few months ago. And I am only reviewing her right now, even though I received this figure like quite a while ago. Is because of logistics issues, I got her at full price from Hobby Link Japan, but there were some shipping issues delaying her shipping by weeks. Yeah. So speaking of the height of this figure, including the base to the top of her head over here, I'll just call it a head. To the top here, 28 centimeters. If we are talking about head height, right, not including this head over here, 24 centimeters, which is squarely in 1/7 scale territory. And speaking of this head over here, yes, you can remove it, and there would be a pole, a stick coming out from your head, which you can remove it, but there is still a hole left behind, and you can replace it with this piece over here, right? But this is where the biggest problem I had with this figure. Swapping out the parts. This part was way too tight, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't pry this part over here out from her head and replace it with this one. And I gave up. I did not manage to swap this out at all because I do not want to accidentally break something, especially these gold color pieces sticking out on the side over here. I did not want to risk fracturing this part, especially on this piece where it allows me to plug in the head. So in the end, I never got to swap out this part at all. Parts being too tight is also a quality control issue. But how big of an issue is that is up to you to decide. In my case over here, fine, because I would prefer to display Scarlet with this hat on. If I wanted a figure of Scarlet without this hat on, then I would buy a different version of her, where there are many other figures of her coming out in the future, right? And I would buy more, yes. So speaking of the unboxing process, this is what the box looks like. Wrap around box, very nice design, but yeah, not very solid compared to Modernia. Modernia's box is like 2 or 3 levels tougher compared to this one. This one is very soft on the front over here and on the back. So if the postman is being rough on the parcel, this could still take a lot of damage. So this box is a 6 out of 10, not any higher. And assembly process was a bit intimidating, but not as bad as Modernia, I guess. Modernia was the worst for me in the past 5 Nikke figures I reviewed, including this one. All I had to do is to read the instruction manual a bit, and I was able to figure out everything on my own, which is good. For the stability of this figure, if I were to shake it, she barely wobbles at all. Yeah, this hat over here is a bit problematic in the sense that, yeah, it does wobble a bit more than the rest of the figure, but otherwise, this is a very stable figure, I would say. Stability score that I'm giving her is a 9 out of 10. Great. Moving on to the sculpt department of this figure, I can see why this figure is so popular. Yeah, people love Scarlet, the character itself. But to add to that character popularity part, this figure turns out to be a lot more detailed than I expected. You know, the outfit design and everything, the detail points around her waist, her armor and so on. This figure is a joy to look at. And along with all those details, there are no quality control issues to be found. In terms of the sculpt department, no ugly gaps or seam lines, no glue leaking out, no inconsistent mold lines or sculpting, and everything appears to be well put together. So all is good over here, especially the face. The face is spot on. The face is a 9.5 or even a 10 out of 10. So far with every Nikke figures I've reviewed, none of them has any face issues, which is something I'm very glad to be seeing over here. So this Scarlet figure, the only issue with her in terms of the sculpt, or rather the character design, is that this big hat over here is going to block a light source and you won't be able to see her face that well, you know, casting shadows on her face. But that is all due to the character design. So with the figure over here, Sculpt gets an 8.5 out of 10 and the face is a full like 9.5 or even 10 out of 10. We are off to a good start, but the paintwork is where there is a bit of a disappointment over here. Yep, quality control issues and Good Smile Arts Shanghai, they are kind of synonymous with each other so far. Anis swimsuit version had some small issues. Modernia had some small issues. Same thing applies to this Scarlet figure. At least this is the copy I got over here. So let me point out the problematic parts first. It is only one flaw. On the right side of the figure over here, on the right hip over there, there is a huge amount of purple paint left behind on her skin. This is what we call paint transfer. Paint transfer is not something that necessarily happens in the figure box where the paint comes from a different part of the figure. You know, 2 moving parts in the box not secured together, clashing against each other, then you get paint transfer. But in this case, this does not look like something that happens in the box. This is something that happens in the factory during the painting process itself. Sometimes you're painting the figure and then you don't pay attention, you leave behind a bit of paint on the figure because your brush accidentally touched the figure and you did not notice it. Something like that. So that purple paint over there, I'm not sure. I'm not confident if I will be able to remove it using Mr. Hobby's leveling thinner. If the paint transfer happened during the painting process itself and they proceeded to spray a clear coat over it, then I don't think I can remove this paint transfer without damaging the paintwork itself. I'm holding myself back. I'm choosing not to do anything about this paint transfer, even though I'm very tempted to try it. It is when I see paint transfer happen within a figure box during shipping, that is when I'm certain that I can remove it with Mr. Leveling Thinner because the transfer is very superficial. I'm pretty mad about this paint transfer being present over here. Maybe the first release last year was better in quality control. So that is about the only flaw I can find on the paintwork on this figure. Meanwhile, everywhere else, the detail parts, I could not see any paint scratches, paint transfer, or paint bleeding. All of the fine details are painted with precision otherwise. And for that reason, I can only give this figure a score of 7.5 out of 10 for the paintwork maximum. Yeah, I docked off like one whole point for the paint transfer over there, because it is a big mistake, not a small mistake. Otherwise, this would be an 8.5 out of 10. So with Paintwork, it is not just about quality control, but also about detailing and shading, where most of it are on her hair, right? This purple lavender color hair, a lot of color gradients, while everywhere else, like this purple color piece over here, can see some gradual weathering. A gradual one, not very obvious one, and that is good enough because this character's design is already so complex, and all of the small details already make the figure look fairly detailed. This hat over here is also full of heavy shading. So overall, I'm quite happy with the paint work and feeling even more regrets that I did not get her sooner. Reviewing her today in 2026 is a bit too late. Anyways, moving on to the last part of this review, which is the base. This is the kind of base I want every figure brand to put on their anime figures. Compact and small and lightweight, yet at the same time, it is a diorama. We have some texture over here, even some grass in fact, right? And this is not even a very pricey figure, about under 23,000 yen before taxes and shipping. Yeah, it is around this base. It is still around this base, but at least we get details, right? So it goes on to tell us that you don't really need to spend a lot of money in the manufacturing process to give a figure a bit of extra detail and still price it reasonably. Like 23,000 yen for this thing is insane, in my opinion, right? This is really good value for money considering the amount of details you're getting with this figure. And it is also the kind of figure where the details cannot be replicated in a price figure. I mean, have you seen Bandai's Ichiban Kuji Scarlet with this same outfit? That one does not look anywhere close to this. Not as good. Not even half as good. Yeah, and this is why we buy scale figures over the cheaper price figures. So the base here is a 9 out of 10 for me. Virtually no complaints other than being a bit heavier would be nice. Gives the figure more stability. Yeah, but I'm nitpicking, of course. Arriving at the conclusion of today's figure review, yes, it is still a big yes. Go and grab this Nikke Scarlet figure before you regret it, because it seems like her numbers are starting to reduce over in Japanese websites. I've seen some websites not having her anymore. They've already sold out the re-release copy. Yeah, in China still can find some, but if we look at the Japanese ones, I think her price is still slightly going up again. So if you want one after watching this review, I would suggest not waiting any longer. She still comes as recommended, and that paint issue behind her, hopefully it is just my copy. So until then, I hope that you found this review to be helpful and informative. If it is, please give it a like and subscribe to this channel for more anime figure content every week. And until then, thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you soon. Goodbye.